Hello everyone, welcome to Sage's Tabletop Table Talks. I'm Sage, this is my tabletop, and I'm going to talk to you about tabletop role-playing games. So I did a full review of the Palladium Fantasy role-playing game from Palladium Games. It's a Rift's game. Excuse me, a little while ago. And I said that I really like the way some of the classes are laid out. And I think I said in that video that I was going to talk about kind of just the classes overall and do a video where I just kind of go through and I'm going to talk about some of the interesting choices Kevin Simbeta made when he designed these classes, for better or for worse. As he has some really, really good ideas, but he's also very much stuck in like the late 70s, early 80s mindset of tabletop role-playing games. And so there's kind of like an interesting way that he attempted to evolve Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And like, it's just really some of the things that's really kind of interesting. Universally speaking, there are two decisions he made that I absolutely adore. The first is, generally speaking, characters get all their class abilities at first level. It's not universally true, but for most of the classes, all the cool shit you can do, you can get at level 1. It's just as you level up, it gets more reliable, as the game uses a percentage system for most resolutions. So it might be a thing where it might happen at, 10% chance plus an additional 8% every level. So at level 2, 18%, at level 3, 26%, things like that. Or it might just straight up get more powerful. None of them come to mind at the moment, but generally speaking, or things like the Paladin's Demon Death Blow, which costs PPE to use, and so you can use it more often in the game. PPE is generally your spellcasting ability that lets you use spells and other like magical class-like abilities. It stands for potential psionic energy. I talk about what that is and what that means in my Palladium review if you want to go back and check that out. But yeah, generally speaking, player characters get dude, stop running my video. Come on. Generally speaking, player characters get but yeah, they get all their cool ability, and then they get like the stuff they cast PPE, they get more per level, and it kind of works like Dungeons and Dragons uses per day, because your PPE goes up, which is usually what happens when I see Catherine Isabel. But anyway, the other thing I really like about the classes in this is, generally speaking, so how you'll get where it says see skills, you'll get right here a collection of skills that let you do you pick from, like D&D skills, except for honestly there's both a lot more freedom in a lot of ways and a lot less freedom in a lot of ways. And I'll say here, WP one of one choice. So what WP is your weapon proficiencies, what weapons you are capable of using. Oh, that says, oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed that before. Because this book wasn't edited, this weapon proficiency says one off choice. It's supposed to say one of choice. And that's because in the game, your characters pick a weapon they're proficient with, and like even spellcasters and stuff. So if you want to be a wizard with a great sword or a priest with a battle axe, then by all means, you can be a wizard with a greatsword, a priest with a battle axe, a druid with a fucking nunchucks. Like, the possibility's yours. I don't know, the druid might be restricted because the druid is, well, I'll get the druid. But that's just kind of how the game works. Is like you pick a weapon, like whatever. And for 19, I think the first edition was way early. It's like maybe okay. It says first edition copyright 1983. So like that is way early in game design to have such kind of a forward thinking idea. But I'm gonna go through the classes and just kind of talk about some of the interesting things that they have. So we'll start. I'm just going to go in the order that the book presents the classes. We're going to start with the Priest of Light. So the Priest of Light is not a cleric. He's a priest. He doesn't wear plated armor and smash shit with a mace. He predominantly does things like cleansings, which he gets like exorcisms, remove curses. He can... because he's used to doing feastings for his deity, he can go long periods of time without food and water and things like that. But the big thing he gets that's really kind of cool, other than the ability to use, like, because it says that their weapon proficiency can reflect their deity, meaning if you're like a priest of Thor, you might have a warhammer. A priest of Ares might carry a short sword or a spear. A priest of Amaterasu or Susanoo might carry a katana. But they get these things called miracles. The big problem with miracles I have is that the game is very much like DM fiat on when you're overusing them. They start with but what they do is they let you do like crazy things. Like one of them lets you get supernatural strength, where you get like MDC, like, which is like hit points that are for like tanks and mecha as opposed to like people, and they get like huge attack boosts. Or they can perform great miracles that let them do whatever. It says here, the most flexible ability. Allow the priest to do incredible things. Here we go. Great miracle of increased power. It doubles the power of your spells. Unfortunately, what I don't like is that it is like, if your god decides that you're asking too much, then they'll take your power away and just stop answering. And I don't like that, because I do think DM fiat is good in a lot of ways. Things like, I want to try to smash this door down, and I've got a warhammer. Okay, yeah. Versus, I want to smash this door down, but I've got a staff. Like, the warhammer is going to do it better than a staff is going to. But if you're pushing a rock and you want to use your staff to pry it up to give you leverage for a strength bonus, then I think DM fiat once again takes no effect. That the staff's going to be better off doing that than a warhammer is. But something like this, where it's very arbitrary, I feel like it should be something like, you can ask for a miracle once per level, or... Because how it works is, the chance of success is your mental affinity attribute, wisdom, and plus 2% per level. So maybe something like, you get your miracle, but if you fail that roll, you cannot ask for another miracle until you level up. Which, the idea of leveling up would be, you've proven your devotion to whatever deity, and it has allowed you to ask again, because, you're obviously not just a priest to use the god, you are a priest doing, whatever you need to do to, spread the beliefs of your deity across the world. I think that it's kind of a cool ability. I would use some work, but I think that it could be something that, if you're designing a fantasy game, a Dungeons and Dragons like game, to take into account would be like, the ability to ask your deity for miracles. They have the after that they have this edgelord, this little priest of darkness dude. He's like the priest except for he has first of all he has curses instead of miracles. So like his prayer would allow him to like literally pox curse. You can literally put a pox on someone's house with this villain. First of all, I don't like evil characters in games. Evil campaigns just don't ever really work. I've never seen one work properly. They either just turn into lawful neutral, or they just turn into a bunch of fucking childish slap fighting with the party, because evil tends to not work together. You know, there's a reason why the Legion of Doom has this ever-rotating membership and only comes around every once in a while. And the Justice League is pretty solid, and it's because evil tends to backstab. Like, when you're evil, you just naturally backstab and power grab, and that's not conducive to teamwork. But yeah, they let you do things like curses, and one of the things I actually kind of like is so the priest can remove curses or exorcise spirits from areas. The priest of darkness lets you do similar things, like you exorcise demons, but instead of like sending the demon away, it's more like you do a handshake with them and like become buddies with them. So there's this Japanese fable of red oni and blue oni, where red oni comes to town and like starts, you know, messing shit up, and then blue oni comes to town and is like, hey, I'll get rid of that asshole for you for whatever amount of money. And so blue oni goes in, they pretend to fight. Red oni like, oh, you beat me. And then blue oni takes his payment and goes off, and they're like, ha ha ha, gotcha. We got those suckers. And then they split the money because it's a scam. It's basically the Beach Bully scam from Futurama, where he kicks over Fry's sandcastle and he's like, look, you slipped me a 20, I take a dive, and then you get the girl. That's kind of how the exorcism and turn undead work for the Priest of Darkness, and it's mostly kind of funny. It's not particularly useful. Next one is the monk, warrior monk. I love this motherfucker's haircut. Like, this fucking dopey ass bowl cut. It's just like, yeah, that's exactly what a temple narc would have his hair cut, like, for realsies. So monks in this game are not like karate guys. They're actually stave fighters. They use staves or spears. So they start with weapon proficiency, staff and spear, and they do have their hand-to-hand is martial arts, which is the best in the game. They actually don't, so they don't get a choice in weapon proficiencies. They can take extra weapon proficiencies with their extra skill choices, but if you're being honest, just use a spear, because the spear is a solid weapon, and when they're fighting with a spear or a stave, they have the ability to do what's called a power strike, where if they roll an 18... if they hit an opponent on an 18, 19, or 20, they bap them with the staff, which can cause them to not only take extra damage, but also there's a chance they could be stunned for a short period of time and drop a weapon they have. And it's kind of interesting because, like, I think that one of the problems in a lot of these games is that critical hits aren't interesting. In Dungeons and Dragons, they just, in most games, they do double damage. A critical hit in something like Powered by the Apocalypse, because how actions work in PBTA is, if you roll over if there's, okay, you're trying to do something, and there's a list of things it will do if you succeed. And in PBTA, often a critical success just either lets you pick 2 from that list or lets you pick 1 without a counter negative consequence. And it's kind of lame. And Power by the Apocalypse is kind of lame. So everything PBTA does, I think Fate can do better. So if somebody wanted to play PBTA, I'd just rather play Fate, honestly. Not saying I wouldn't play a PBTA game, but like if given the option, I'd play Fate before PBTA 100 times out of 100. The monk can also parry arrow. Instead of catching arrows with their bare hands, they parry them because arrows and bullets are actually incredibly difficult to stop in Palladium. And warrior monks can kind of have a better chance of stopping arrows and bullets with their stave, which is kind of neat. And one of my favorite old school slash OSR classes. Oh my god, I love this shit. That is the Druid. This lady here with the sun on her shirt. Like, you gotta admit, like, it's kind of silly, the designs. The artwork in this book is fucking amazing. Like, this is, honestly, a lot of this is just really good, like, black and white artwork. It's almost worth the book just for the artwork in it. So I do have to check something out. Weapon proficiency staff. So they can only use... I figured as much, because druids in this game are just very, very much AD&D clone druids. And they can only use staff. They can only have hand-to-hand basic, which is so boring. And as separate weapon proficiencies, you can take anything but siege, targeting, large axes, pole arms, and lance. Like, why can't a druid use an axe? I mean, so much of their stuff's wood, and you would need an axe to, like, cut trees down and pull lances. And lances make sense, because, like, what's a druid gonna do with the fucking lance? However, so druids are another one, and see, they get the shit that in AD&D, where at first level you get these abilities. Now you get a lot of abilities at first level. But see, at second level, you get these abilities. At third level, you get these abilities. Meaning that it takes forever for them to come online. Now, a lot of these druid powers are kind of interesting. Like the ability to read stars and like the power of prophecy. They can forecast weather change. Honestly, what they should have done was be like, okay, you get these druid powers. Like, honestly, the astronomy, weather change, extinguish, kindle flame are 2 separate powers. They could have rolled a bunch of these into one. They do have the ability to forecast or anyway, however, what this book does, the thing where I'm pretty sure, do they? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I actually think they didn't do it. Oh, no, they do it. The Supreme Druid thing, where, so, I don't know why games felt the need to do this with druids. Once you reach a certain level of druid, you have to find a druid when you reach the experience point to reach the next level. So in this game, level 10 out of 15, so it's only 5 levels, and honestly, after level 10, druids just learn wizard spells. Level 1 to 3 wizard spells, so not really anything worth having. But this idea where, as a druid, when you hit level 9 and you get enough experience points to reach level 10, you have to go find a level 10 wizard, shove his face in the dirt, and take his raccoon hat. And then you go and find, when you reach enough experience at level 11, you got to go and find another druid and, you know, slap him around and take his bobcat hat and give him your raccoon hat. And like then there's also like druids chasing you down because they want your hat, and if they take your hat, then you go down levels. And one of the questions I always have was, if I have my level 10 raccoon hat and I see somebody with a level 12 deer hat and I beat him up and I like throw his face in the dirt, can I just go straight to level 12? Or does my duel not count because I skipped over levels? It's really weird and silly. The game this one kind of hand waves it a little bit more than a lot of these games do, so that's nice. But yeah, and honestly, like druids in this game just are kind of druids. There's nothing really interesting about them. They can heal animals, like okay, whatever. But yeah, that's always been a weird thing with me and druids. I'm glad most modern games don't do it, but like, it's so funny to think that this class of like nature men have to fucking beat each other up and steal each other's fucking hats or belts or whatever in order to progress in ranks. Like, and hand to heaven, if somebody knows, can you tell me what the fuck that origin of that is from? Because like that is so fucking weird in these games with the druids. I mean, it'd make more sense for a monk because the idea of like competing for next, you know, in sparring matches and test of martial skill for next belt ranks more than it does like druids, to me at least. Anyway, weird. So next up we're at the Men of Arms. These ones are a lot more boring than the spellcaster ones, but there's still some interesting thing to say. So we got this mercenary warrior here. This big old dude with them big old spikes that would be completely useless in a fight. He got himself a big ol' axe too. There's a big ol' axe. Got a big ol' axe. Big ol' axe. Got a big ol' axe. They're your generic fighters. Their big thing. They mostly get like a lot of the skills in this game. A lot of the physical skills like swimming, climbing, running, jumping grant you stat boosts, like straight up boost to your like physical strength and hit points, and they get a lot of those, and that's kind of like their big thing. And one of the things they kind of explain in the book is how mercenary soldiers get paid. Like they have this bullet list of different ways they get paid and like pay scale and stuff, and it's kind of interesting because it actually creates like this theme, this vibe of like what a mercenary soldier is other than big guy with axe and 2 weapon proficiencies. They start the game with 2 proficiency with 2 weapons, and sword and shield. So yeah. So like they talk about revenge. An employer hires a mercenary to extract revenge against an enemy, villain, or competitor. This could include a duel to the death, an assassination, a beating, public humiliation, robbery, vandalism, theft, and similar acts to an all-out war. And they talk about things like, as a rule of thumb, the more dangerous the mission, the higher the pay, but will depend on wealth and generosity of the employer. A single mission might pay 1d6 times 1,000 gold per person. Because nothing in Palladium can just be like, you'll generally make 300 gold. If there's a die that can be rolled for random generation, you will roll that die for random generation. Generally speaking, I think the Mercenary Warrior is stronger than the next class, just because the next class have like weird roleplay advantages, but the Mercenary Warrior just kind of has a little bit better skill selection. And our next one is this clown, and he is a soldier. He's kind of just like a slightly weaker mercenary warrior, but they get things like here, like whether you're going on missions or not. I got it right here. Like you get like a salary, like you fucking like you guys are unionized, man. Like hey, we are guaranteed if we're doing this to get like 100 gold pieces. What was it? Yeah, 100 gold pieces a month, and we get room and board, and we get, like I said, food and So whether we're on missions or not, we're getting paid because, the soldier is like a union mercenary warrior. Maybe not quite as skilled, but he's got a lot of job security. As a joke, union people don't fucking come after me. It's just a fucking joke, okay? Like, chill the fuck out. Up next, the longbowman. That's right here. That lady right there. With her fucking mohawk, because this was the 1980s when they made this, and somebody had to look like a cheap punk rock character. Longbowmen specialize in a weapon, so it's kind of interesting because, like, I know I'm very similar to the warrior monk. Like the longbow in this game, only two classes can use: the longbowman and the ranger. And the longbowmen have a bunch of, like, they can dodge and parry arrows because they're so familiar with archery. They understand things like, how the opponent's aiming and understanding, like, how the ability to move and things like that. And they get, the big things they get is they get, a bunch of bonuses with that bow and arrow. So they are a class that specialize in a category of weapons. And I do like, so they get weapon proficiency archery, weapon proficiency targeting. I don't remember what WP targeting is. And a side weapon of choice. You can do spear, or you can do fucking, like, great axe if you want. But they get, like, special techniques with their bow and arrow. They get, like, they attack more often with their bow and arrow. Get 2 shots at level 1, and then at level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 get it. So they just fire a volley of arrow from this actually fairly powerful weapon. And they can cut their number of attacks down and do, like, a special aim shot, which grants them +3 to their attack roll. And they can call a shot, like target's eye, or target a candle, things like that. Target a rope to try to cut it. And that's really kind of interesting to have a class based entirely around a single weapon. Next up is that clown with this weird ass bucket head. I love that shit. That looks like a knight. In modern books like Paladin don't look like knights. They look like over-designed messes. That dude looks like he's actually gonna ride into battle and not fall over his own shitty armor. Like that dude looks like he's ready for a fight, not ready for a fucking, I don't know, convention, like, costume contest. Ugh. Oh, and they have, like, a little diagram of how the stuff you'd wear for a proper bucket helmet. Love that shit. It's so dumb. Knights in this game are just shitty paladins. Everything a knight has, a paladin has. The game uses that thing where you have to roll stats in order to qualify for classes, which is the down parts of the paladin. But I waived that when I played, so nobody played a knight. But one of the things I like is, because they are actually similar to the bowmen. Them and the paladin have, like, they do special techniques with lances. They start with lance as their proficiency. Lance, shield, 2 others of their choice. They start with expert, where the paladin almost certain starts with martial arts. Yep, they start with martial arts, because martial arts is paladin combat in this game. But one of the things I like is, and like I said, random rolls. It's kind of interesting because they have, like, knight family backgrounds. So if you're a knight, your family, because, generally speaking, if you're a knight, you come from some kind of fancy background. So, you roll, you're from an old family. Maybe you're from a noble family of wealthy landowners. Maybe you're a peasant who took up arms and worked his way up the ranks. And you do roll randomly, and depending on what your background is, you get extra skills for that background. It's very similar to how backgrounds in Dungeons and Dragons and Palladium Second Edition work, or not Palladium, Pathfinder Second Edition work. So it's kind of cool. They do have a little paladin code or knight code of chivalry, which is bullshit because that's not actually how knights worked. That's a very, and the code of chivalry only really applied to other knights anyway, and was self-enforced. So if you're enforcing your own rules, then there's this lady here, paladin, with her belly showing because once again it's the 80s. We had to have a little midriff action here. Get a little belly in that act. Get a little belly in there. Yeah. Oh, they get lance, shield, and 3 of choice. Okay, cool. And they still roll the family background for knights. So family background, same as knight OOC. OOC is occupational character class. Basically, what it means is it's your class, but there's OCCs, which is occupational. You learned it. I kind of covered this in my Palladium, but OOC is something you learn. RCC, racial character class, because dragons are just dragons. They don't take up knighthood. And then PCC, psychic character class, which was added for more horror campaigns to have like psychics in the game, and that kind of just got and not that different than an OCC. Paladins have this Paladin Death Blow, Demon Death Blow, which I fucking love the Demon Death Blow. So what it is it's Smite Evil. It is, they focus as inner spirit to attack demons, dragons, elemental, and other supernatural beings and creatures of magic. When they use it against one of those creatures, the attack penetrates the creature's natural armor rating. So the attack completely ignores armor rating. I think, let's see, does it do double and conflict damage with a punch, kick, or handheld weapon such as a sword? It does full damage and it does full damage plus your physical strength bonus, even if the creature is immune to normal weapons. So you imbue your weapon. So even if you're using a fucking rusted pickaxe, you imbue it with magic energy and it ignores it. So like, let's say, because it's undead, you have an incorporeal undead, it can't be hurt by physical attacks. Well, it just ignores that. Creatures impervious. Oh wait, no. Creatures impervious to normal weapons, which are only affected by magic or magic weapons, will suffer half damage. I don't like that. Full damage if he's using a magic or holy weapon. Even vampires and other creatures only afflicted by silver will suffer half damage from this special attack, full if he's using a silver weapon. The attack is devastating to the creature's body, and the creature cannot bioregenerate for 1d4 hours. Bioregeneration is fast healing. What this means is when you hit them with their special attacks, then it turns off their regeneration, which is such kind of a cool idea. I love the idea that this attack is so devastating to demons that it turns off special defenses. It turns off their healing factor, things like that. For the game I designed, I took it a step further, and it just completely shuts down things like immunities, like fire immunities and things like that. Because I think it's such a cool idea that this attack just fucks up their demon magical resistances. That's really fun. That's cool. This guy must have beat up a level 13 druid because he's got a wolf hat. He had a level 13 druid and slot druid's wolf hat, so I guess he's level 13 druid now. That's a ranger right here, this dude. They can use longbows. They aren't as good with them as the longbowmen. They're honestly really fucking boring. They have a lot of natural skills, and a lot of picks and skills. And they aren't like D&D rangers where they have like favorite enemies and shit. They're just hunters. That's it. They have a lot of hunting skills. That's the whole thing with them. Let's see if they have a picture. There she is. There's our thief right there. Thief lady. No, not the best picture. Not a big fan of that one, but thief lady. The big thing thieves get in this game, which is kind of interesting, with some of the backgrounds in 5th edition, they did this. If you're a thief, you're a member of Thieves Guild. You just are a member of the Thieves Guild. And so, like, if you steal shit or you have, like, racketed goods, if you have hot goods, like, they give you, like, going rates of how to, like, contact Thieves Guild members and, you know, sell your fenced goods. Which, once again, takes some of the power from the DM's hand, but it does create an actual, like, lived-in world where, like, okay, you're a thief and you get, sorry, thief guild membership. This idiot looking here, this is what I'm talking about, over-design. Like, look at those fucking claw hands and his spiky kneecaps, and look like he's got big fucking... Oh, what the fuck are those things called? The like, sea creatures that look like little circles of stingers on them. I can't remember what they're called. It looks like he's got those stapled to his shoulder, but his chest just has like a leather strap on it. Like, fuck this fucking Voldo motherfucker. Ugh, so fucking... That's what fucking 5th edition artwork looks like. Just over-designed garbage. Assassins... They're assassins. They pay to kill. They have to be evil. They have the assassin, hand-to-hand, which is a skill set that has the ability to do a kill strike, and it's one of the worst abilities in the game. Because how it works is if you roll a 20, you kill the target. Cool. But you have to call it. You gotta dial up your friend and be like, hey, Death, I'm gonna do a kill strike. And Death is like, alright, 5% chance you do it, and if you don't roll a 20, your attack just misses. Straight up. So you say, I'm gonna do a kill strike, and even if you roll a 19, unlike the monk's staff bash, you don't still hit and do damage. You just missed your kill strike, and it kind of sucks. They're optional OCCs. These are all just like fucking NPCs. Like, you got merchant, you got a noble, you got the scholar, the squire, the vagabond, this dude, they're NPCs because the game is kind of you're meant to make every single person that the characters interact with as a player character in the same way you would a player character. That's an old game design, and players like, and you can really be a fucking vagabond if you want. I don't know why you would, but here you are. The ways of magic, and here's our wizard who's about halfway up to throwing up the horns, because wizards are metal as fuck, bro. So wizards cast spells. The cool thing wizards get is this fucking like spirit cauldron where they like build a little iron cauldron, they pour some blood into it, throw a butterfly into it, and then they get the ability to like drink this like blood butterfly fucking owl feather sludge, and it gives them the ability to like gain like extra spells that they normally wouldn't have. But there's a chance of insanity, so you might go fucking crazy drinking this blood butterfly broth. And there's a chance a ghost might come out and fucking haunt you, which is so fucking funny. I love that shit. That's so stupid. They can also see and use ley lines, which are literally lines of magic that kind of run around the world. And they can drift on ley lines. They can just kind of float there. Like, oh, I'm taking a nap. I'm just gonna float down this ley line. And it's such a weird thing that they can do. A lot of the spellcasters can do the ley line shit. It's just interesting. I like it. It's fun. One of the other interesting things is so they start with a collection of spells, and one of the spells they start with isn't a spell. It's called Cloud of Slumber. It's not a wizard spell. You have to go to the Warlock section to get it, which is kind of funny. Once again, because this book wasn't edited, it was just kind of written as they went. It's so interesting. But yeah, that's kind of what the wizard gets, is they get the ability to like float down ley lines, and they get this fucking weird ghost cauldron that might actually summon a demon to haunt you for the rest of your life. Yeah. And then there's fucking oh, what's her name? Maleficent here, who's a warlock. Warlocks are elemental casters, and it's so weird to me, how warlocks work in these games, because the idea of a warlock is like an oath breaker, somebody who had broken from their coven, and all these games, warlocks are about making oaths, when like warlocks are supposed to be oath breakers. In this game, warlocks make deals with elemental spirits: earth, air, fire, water. So your warlock is based on one or two of those elemental forces. If you have one of those elemental forces, you gain a bunch of spells from that list. So you gain access to a lot more spells, but the spell list that you can pull from is limited. You start with 3 from your elemental school, and you gain, I think, 3. You might gain 2 per level. If you choose 2 elemental forces, you gain 1 from each element. So if you pick like earth and fire and make yourself a lava wizard, every level you gain an earth spell and a fire spell. You get a lot more options to pull from, but a lot less options to use once you're actually in the game. You can sense an element. One of the interesting things about this game is the way elementals work. So, there it is, the Brotherhood. Etiquette between elementals and warlocks. So, like, you just talk to elementals and they see you as an elemental. So if there's a fire elemental wandering around, like just burning shit down, because elementals don't have terrestrial mindsets. So a fire elemental just walk through town because he doesn't think anything of it. And instead of fighting it, you can be like, hey, look, I know you're new here, but we don't just burn buildings here on the material plane. So if you could you like kind of walk off to the side? Let's have a talk. Maybe I can get you sent back to the elemental plane of fire, so we're not, getting into this shit. And so these guys aren't going to start throwing buckets of water on you. So it's kind of interesting. You're also supposed to, when you summon elementals in this game, you are supposed to ask them instead of demand them, because if you start demanding stuff from them, then you can risk hurting your relationship between the elemental planes. Next up is this old lady, and she's a witch. Which witch is which? This witch. Historically, ancient pagan rituals, later associated with witchcraft, are often druid-like earth magic or Wicca. Many of these ancient rituals and potions focus on healing, harvesting crops, and prophecy. Later, with the dominance of Judeo-Christian religions, witchcraft became known for demonic possession, union with evil forces, and black magic for purposes of evil. Today, Satanism and witchcraft are considered one and the same. This was written in 1983. The section on witches is not based on historical myth or magic. If anything, is inspired by Hollywood horror movies. Further note that nobody at Palladium Books encourages nor condones the practice of occult or the use of magic. This is a fictional world in a fantasy setting, make-believe. Now read and enjoy. So yeah, you gotta get the thing in there that they don't actually want you to practice black magic, because, yeah. Witches get a familiar, which gives them like a bunch of superpowers and a third nipple that the familiar sucks your blood out of. So that's weird. Also, that's the interesting thing about it, is you get like a cat that sucks blood out of your third nipples. It's so fucking weird. Outside of that, they're honestly just kind of a wizard. One of my favorite spellcasters in this game is up next. That is the Diabolist. No, he does not summon demons. He uses runes. I don't know how you would make this class work as an adventurer. But it's so fucking neat. You don't actually use spells. You don't throw fireballs. You don't summon storms. You draw words on little notes of paper and you stick them to stuff. And then you can do things like, okay, you stick this thing to a door, and if somebody opens the door, it might create an explosion, it might create alarm, it might ward off certain monsters. There's a comic called, it was a webcomic called Order of the Stick. And there was a running joke where their wizard Vesuvius would hand people notes. And the note would say, I said explosive runes today, and then the note would explode and damage the person reading it. That joke is the Diabolus class. And if I ever got a chance to play Palladium, play Palladium, I would love to try to be a Diabolus just because it's such a stupid fucking class. So weird. But yeah, and then he even writes in what the runes are. Here you go, they're the runes if you want to just scribble them actually on the piece of paper. Yeah, runes, some more mystic symbols here. We don't encourage you to practice witchcraft, but if you want to, here's some symbols to draw to cast spells. I know it's there to flavor the world, and it's actually really cool. Next up is the Summoner. This lady here with her little demon buddy who looks like it's about to be in one of the movies I really like to watch. Those who know. They're summoners. They draw summoning circles. One of the big problems I have with this class is that first of all, the amount of psychic energy it takes to actually do any of the useful spells is insane. It costs 70 to activate a protective circle. And they start with, let me check here real quick, because I forgot how much the summoner starts with. 3d6 times 10 plus physical endurance. So you're looking at an average of probably about 78 to 80 to start with. You got one activation at level 1. Plus an additional, 2d6 per level. However, there is a caveat, and kind of what I don't like about the Summoner, which is a lot of them, these spells, these summoning spells, these protection spells, you are supposed to sacrifice living creatures in order to utilize them. So you're supposed to do blood sacrifices. How Palladium works is if you kill a creature, that PvE, that 70 they start with, if somebody sacrificed you, kills you, your body doubles it for an instant. So you would give out 140 PvE, which casters can then steal from. And that's the idea of why blood rituals were used, because if you kill a creature, you can steal their PvE for a spell for yourself. And it's really, when you're actual summoning in the game, you're really encouraged to do that, and in some cases, actively required to do that. There is a hilarious story in this book about one of his players, and just how he fucks with players. So there was a story. He tells a story. I'm gonna basically summarize it. But he's ordering his summon creature to do something. He's like, oh, there's a fucking kick-ass picture of somebody summoning a big old demon. Or maybe it's a devil. So the person's like, demon, go get that person. Demon, go get that person. Demon, do this. And the creature's not doing anything. And it ends up fucking him over. And it's like, oh, you're supposed to listen to me. He's like, well, you kept saying demon. I'm a devil. I don't know, though. Maybe you had a demon hanging out somewhere you were talking to. Because I'm not a demon. I'm a devil. We're not this. And it's so funny. Yeah, but it just kind of shows you just the kind of DM that Kevin Simbeta was. So interesting. All these powers, and then finally we're at our psychics. I'm not super fond of a lot of these psychics. They're just wizards again. Um, so you have the Psi Healer. Basically, psionics are split into categories. So a lot of these are just kind of like, okay, Psi Healer, they're psychics, but they heal. They're like the Priest of Light, but kind of shittier. The Psi Mystic, which is this lady here with the staff I got, that does not look like a Psi Mystic to me. That just looks like some fucking another witch. They can kind of, they have psychic powers. They're wizards with psychic powers. Really boring. There's our Mind Mage, who is just a stronger version of the Psi Mystic. Yep. That's it. They're really boring. They could have made like, maybe like a Psi Blade or a Combat Psi, but, and there probably are in other games, because the game has like 800 fucking between OCCs, RCCs, PCCs, classes, but that's all the ones in the book. There's an alchemist in here that is specifically for NPCs. They make items for the DM to sell to players, because like I said, every Tom, Dick, and Joe in this game is supposed to be built. The DM is supposed to build them like PCs. And I don't like how Simbado handles it, because he's very much like, if people create generated tables, he'll shut that shit down, and that's kind of his right, because it is his game, but it's also like makes running the game 1,000 times harder than it needs to be, since there really isn't a lot of legal player supported material out there, and I don't particularly care for that. But once again, it's his game, and he can kind of do it however he wants. But yeah, it's just kind of an interesting little run through of like some of the stuff that I do and don't like about just interesting hiccups within the Palladium. There's a little monster dude on the back. Rawr, rawr. Yeah, that dude with his fucking big old teeth and his eyes all over his shoulders. Like I said, the artwork of this book's fantastic. But yeah, so just some interesting things. And like I said, to anyone out there who's designing games, pick up weird shit like this, because you don't know what you're going to find that will inspire you to do something that will separate what you're doing from other role-playing games out there. Like the Demon Death Blow, things like that. Like the Staff Strike. Because, you know, even bad games have something to teach us. Except for Know Your Role. Fuck that game. The game that lesson that taught me is that a professional wrestling tabletop role-playing game won't work. But anyway, I guess I'll see you guys next time. Have fun and stay safe out there, guys.